what does sex look like? What does intimacy look like? And I look at Tully and I'm like, fuck, we've got like high intimacy, but we do not have sex 5 times a week. But we are like kissing, cuddling, touching, playing, laughing. And then, yes, sexual intimacy too, but like not always penetration. Like we could go a month without penetration, but it doesn't feel like we haven't had sex. Because also, like, you know, and I've got friends who are sexologists, like this is where we recondition what even sex is. Sex is not penis and vagina. It's actually like that's part of sex, but it isn't sex, right? So then I'm like, oh, well, I have to rewire my teenage brain when it comes to what sex is. Because I'm like, oh, did we just have sex or did he just go down on me? Yes, we did. Can I put that in my little diary of how many times we're having sex each month? Like,
Yo, 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 lovers. Welcome to Sex, Love, and Everything in Between. We're the O'Neills. You're here with Meg and Jacob.
And this is the place we have really uncensored conversations about sex, intimacy, and relationships. We're super excited you're here. Enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sex, Love, and Everything in Between. I have the beautiful Kat River with me today. And I was just sharing with Kat before we hit record that I'm actually this feels like a very selfish conversation because I'm really excited to pick Kat's brain on everything to do with motherhood and business, motherhood and relationships. So yeah, a lot of these questions will just be for me today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here and talking to you today.
Me too. I feel like I've only started following you in the last year and a bit, or maybe the last few years, but I feel like you've been in my circle. Like I've felt you and seen you and lots of people sharing your work for like years and years. And obviously the closer, because how old's your eldest? 4?
He's 4.5. Yep. And then okay. I've got 18-month-old as well.
Yeah. So I feel like the closer I got to, you know, being initiated into motherhood, the closer you came into my field and the closer you came into my world. And yeah, I just feel like why I'm so excited to have this conversation, and I'd love you to introduce yourself in a moment too, but I just feel the way you stand so strongly in your values of family, your values of like being rooted, being anchored, your value of like family-centric business and really, yeah, like merging like intimacy, relationship, family, motherhood, business, money, all of those things, but like with such a deep weaving of integrity. And I don't see, you know, there's many women doing that, but you just stand out so beautifully like in that scene, and you do that so well. So I'm so excited to pick your brain today on that. But before we go there and I start throwing questions at you, would you like to, I'd love to just you to introduce yourself to my community, like let us know what you do, who you are in the world.
Beautiful. Thank you for saying all that. You're making my little heart melt already. Okay, so hello everybody. I am a mother of 2 beautiful boys, both, I don't know anyone having familiarity with human design, but both 5'1" projectors. So parenting projectors is a whole other ballgame for me. That's new. Tully O'Connor is my husband. He is a relationship coach. So we used to do a lot of relationship coaching together. We used to run relationship retreats. We used to have a program together, and then motherhood hit. And about a year in, I go, midlife crisis. I don't want to be a relationship coach anymore. Love it. Have a lot of interest in it, but like needed to kind of find my way through motherhood a little bit. So I pivoted, I paused, I got off social media. I, you know, just gave myself a breath to be me again and figure out who am I in motherhood, because my relationship work career had been all through my maiden era, right? And so I was trying to refigure that out, and I deep dived into creativity. I deep dived into studying the creative process. And for me, like I've always associated myself as a creative. I just told myself, the little voice inside my head being like, yeah, but like you don't really make money from being a creative. So that's like your hobby. And then like you got to go put on your big girl pants and do an actual career for like if you want to make any money. And so I had to like wrestle with that inner conflict as a mother, being like, I want to make money. I love making money. I love making like not having Tully hold all the pressure of providing for a family. But I also love to creatively pivot. I love to be chaotic sometimes. I love to say, nah, babe, I don't want to do anything for the next 6 months. Can you hold the fort? And then pop back in when I'm inspired and ready, right? Like this is my own personal process. And so I needed to figure out, how do we set up a life that holds what feels natural for us, rather than trying to fit ourselves into the box of what was deemed as a normal family life, where dad goes to work and mum's at home with the kids, right? Because we didn't suit the traditional roles, but I could appreciate parts of those roles. And also we needed to just figure it out. And you'll probably figure out on this podcast that I'm not a very dogmatic person, in the sense that like I can always hold duality of everything all the time. And so it wasn't necessarily to say, now I'm going to go and work in the creative world and tell you be a stay-at-home dad. I don't think it's one or the other. So I had my hiatus, and then I came back with vengeance. I was like, I think I figured something out. And I went to go and start working with mothers in the creative space. I had finally claimed so many parts of myself that I had not given the time of day, whether I had been in my maiden era or as a mother. We'd finally found a bit of a rhythm. I found ways to like work with the creative tension of not being able to act on inspiration in the moment all the time, because like you've got a child that needs you, and the sleep deprivation, and like the relationship pressure of actually needing to show up there still, and like where does it all fit? How, is there enough hours in the day? I don't think so, right? So this was my mental conflict for a long time. Finally felt like I'd figured out a few things, and went to go and help mothers in that space, and it didn't work. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, surely people are having the same issues as me and want support in this. Like, what's going on? And I realized that sometimes our ideas have their own timeline, and it's important to be able to attune to what that looks like, rather than, you know, standing here and being like, well, I'm ready, so life show up for me now. Like, I've done the work and here I am. So I had a bit more initiation to go. And it took another 2 years before I started really, truly being completely embodied in the message that I was here to bring for mothers, which was to challenge like the paradigms we believe are to be true, and that we can actually be intuitive, mother-centric, you know, tapped into ourselves, our creativity lit up, feeling turned on by our lives and ourselves and our partners and our family dynamics, and also like going and putting our service out into the world, being paid well for it, and finding ways that that can be leveraged so that we can actually have the time and the energy and feel nourished enough to show up and be present, attuned mothers for our children, which is actually the whole point. So that's leads us to here.
Okay, I have so many little like things I want to pull on there. I want to go back to where you said like, is there enough hours in the day? Because like I'm a new mom. So she's 4 months old. I'm also running a business. Even Jacob and I have just been in this conversation the last few weeks around, we have 2 businesses, a son, a dog, a big home, a yard, community, 2 families that we're very close to. Where like we actually can't, now we're parents, we can't expect to be able to do all of that. We either need to call in support and like have more support in our home base, or really choose the things that are really important to us. We need to be more strategic with our time, like all of these things. So, you know, I would love to hear your thoughts on how you've navigated that, and what you really feel like, because I think, again, stepping into motherhood and being like, I don't think it is, I don't think it's nourishing for a woman to think that she has to do it all. I don't think that's a nourishing belief to take into motherhood. And I think the reality is we need to be really clear on where our values are and what's a priority. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes. Cool. So this has been a huge point of tension in my motherhood journey as well. And from what I can understand, working with so many mothers is like, it's pretty across the board. Because there is this idea that we have to do it all, and we have to do it all well. And if we're not like clicking into a bit of balance, there's this hyper focus on balance. How do we create a balanced life? Everything needs to be balanced and perfectly separated all the time, right? Like, where else in life does balance truly exist other than nature? And the closer we can come back to nature, the slowness, the stillness, I think that's the only way we can even start to taste a little bit of that balance. The filling more up, trying to get more specific with structure, more specific with schedule. I don't know if that necessarily allows space for breathing that is required with motherhood or fatherhood. In saying that, there's also this timeline thing that happens with, especially with women, I guess, but it's because of the society we've been brought up in, which has actually been quite like patriarchal based, right? So there's this idea that we have a purpose. We should find the purpose. We should then act it out. Our purpose is not necessarily just our children. And if it is just our children, then we've abandoned ourselves. But if we're completely in our work, then we've abandoned our children. And so there's this like conflict inside of us that there's a lot of pressure around, because you do like, that's enough on its own, let alone then relationship, family, community, work, like all of it. Dog, home, like friggin' cleaning a house. Like I moved out of a big house because I was like, I don't have the time in my life for this situation. Like, and we also had a cleaner, and I was like, I still don't have the mental capacity to, like, I don't want to walk past my closet and feel guilty every time. That's taking up emotional space in my body. Like, burn half my clothes, done. So, you know, there's a lot of that. But what I've noticed is that a lot of mothers want to do it all and do it all now. Doing it all is not a nourishing mentality to have. But what the part of that deprives us is the part that we have to do it all now. And we see our lives in weekly schedules and monthly schedules. Also, let's question that, right? Why are we even on that timeline? But that's maybe a later conversation. We see our lives in weekly schedules. So we're like, okay, how do I fit relationship, work, children, present time with the kids, actually having some alone time to self-inquire around the way I parent, the way I do business, like, you know, self-inquiry, community, family, volunteering time for anything, even if that's like in your DMs as like a professional, right? Like you're helping people in these like micro moments all the time. Like that is your volunteer work. And so like, how do we balance all that in a week? Maybe we fucking can't. And maybe if we stretched that out to a month and made sure every box was ticked over a month or over 2 months, oh, there's a bit of space now. It's like, why are we trying to squish it into a week? Or why are we trying to squish it into a day? Like for so long, I was like, okay, well, we need to have time alone, time as a couple, time as a family every day, and time to work. That's like 4 decent chunks of time alongside dishes, cooking, washing, like making sure that we're not in shambles. So like, why am I trying to fit it all in every day? All in every day and then all in every week. And then and we do this with our work as well. We do this with our business as well. We try and be like all of our cool career ideas. How do we merge them all in the one moment? It's like, life is long. Life is long. There will be space for all of it. Like, can we release the pressure of trying to like be all of ourselves in every moment? And maybe it's important to be connected to ourselves. Absolutely. And know our inner archetypes and all of that, of course. But every moment does not call for all of us. It's circumstantial. And so maybe on a Tuesday, I'm just mum and I'm not trying to do the work thing. And I'm not trying to like make love every single day. And I'm not trying, you know, like maybe I'm just going to do dishes and make sure the kids have super nourishing meals and I'm fed and I've had my sops and I have a moment to sit down with a cup of tea when they nap. Like that's Tuesday. And maybe it's also Thursday. And then maybe on a Wednesday, I go to a podcast and I get a few hours in at the office. And maybe I work smarter, not harder, and make sure that the work I do pays me well, is time leverageable so that I'm not stuck in the office all the time. And maybe Tully does the same thing. And maybe he's supposed to be in the home too. Because how often are we thinking that it's like the men need to go and provide and we're the ones in the home? Because our kids need mum, of course. But you know what? They also need dad. And why are we still sending the dads away? It's 2025. Like there are so many other options now. And like that is like, I get freaking hate for that statement because people are really hell-bent on the industrial era still. And I'm like, we are beyond that now. We are honestly beyond it. Like there is so much possibility in our lives. So that was a very long-winded comment.
I love that.
Apologies for that whole thing. But I get a bit, you know, about it because like, why are we trying to do it all at once? Like you can be it all, but you can't be it all the time. So
That
that's kind of what I live by.
Yeah, that I feel that in my body. And the other thing you said before is women want to do it all now and well. And what came up for me is like this inner good girl, like which I am, have spent years, moving through and integrating, is the part of me that thinks, especially now in mother, like the inner perfectionist, like I need to be, my dog needs to be perfect. My son, like my time with, like, I just need to be doing all these things perfectly. And it's so interesting to be with, because even getting to reflect with, Jacob on this, like I don't think he has that. He doesn't have that part of him that, like, he's okay to be like, oh, that part drops off for a bit and that's okay. Where the part of me that's not okay or feels uncomfortable when, parts of my life kind of feel like they're dropping off or are a little messy. And I think that's a conditioned, internalized thing we as women, a lot of women carry.
Totally. And we think that our identity is always in the moment. Right? Like, or if I'm not, like, if my libido's dropped off, or I feel really tired, or I haven't had time to reach out to my friends, or I'm avoiding my texts because I'm freaking overwhelmed, or like, that must now be who I am. And that's a problem. And it's like, but also let's stretch it out to 2 years. And if you have a decent amount of community connection over 2 years, and you show up over the next 2 years, and you cook for your other friends postpartum, maybe in 6 months from now, maybe you don't have capacity right now, but like it all circles around. And, over the next 2 years, you nourish your relationship. And over the next 2 years, you build a business. All of a sudden, there's a bit of space in the body for us to just like allow ourselves to be as we are. And knowing that it literally passes so quickly, and we are always pivoting and moving and adjusting to our family's needs and our own needs. And right now you might just need some sleep and some good supplements. Totally.
I love that
and that's okay.
so much. I think this is such an important piece, and I hadn't thought of it. I love the timeline piece around like how much are we trying to, tick everything off in a day or a week, where when we stretch it out, if we're nourishing those parts of our life over a more extended period of time, like, oh, I can feel my body even just like resting into that. Even what's come up for me, again, like early parenthood is, sex and intimacy is something that's really important to me. And we're still very much finding our way as new parents with that, like being like, how is that even like, or if there is time and, we co-sleep, he contacts naps a lot. So it's like, truly, there's not much space right now. And then maybe at the end of the day, like just trying to find the time where both of our libidos are there and like we're both, desiring that. And again, I'm the type of person that can sometimes make that mean something around. And I love what you said. It's like what we're feeling in the moment. Often we think that is our identity. And I do that sometimes, like, oh, we haven't had sex in 2 weeks. Oh my God, that must mean something's wrong with us.
We're not embodied. We have to like rebrand the whole business.
I have a podcast called Sex, Love and Everything in Between. That should be, we should be having sex X amount of times. Like, and it's so interesting just the story, like what I make that mean. And also something that's really supporting me right now is that, like, why do I think my husband's cock needs to go into my pussy for our relationship to be okay, or for that to mean something? And it's like, there's so much intimacy we experience when we're playing with our son, or like when we're connecting over our son, or when we're in these like micro moments throughout the day. Why is there this like, why do I sometimes put the pressure on this to happen so that, I can feel okay? It's such a funny thing. And I'm sure I'm just seeing the power in relaxing that, taking the pressure off. Yeah, having to have penetrative sex for
And this is the deconditioning work that we have to do as parents, right? And it's not just the mother's job. Like, this is the father's job too, because there's a lot of, and I'm speaking obviously very generally here, like there's a lot of men who wonder where the penis and vagina sex goes postpartum. And it's like, I have had very many experiences myself where I am dying for sexual intimacy, but I could not give a shit about being penetrated in that moment. I'm like, oh, just touch me, play, enjoy me, but like, please don't go inside me, because I'm actually like, my body's not open. I've been freaking like giving all day. I'm shut down. And sometimes we don't have the time to spend opening the body completely. And so that's where the parenthood comes in. And so it's like, men just as much as women need to start reconditioning our mind as like, what does sex look like? What does intimacy look like? And I look at Tully and I'm like, fuck, we've got like high intimacy, but we do not have sex 5 times a week. But we are like kissing, cuddling, touching, playing, laughing. And then, yes, sexual intimacy too, but like not always penetration. Like we could go a month without penetration, but it doesn't feel like we haven't had sex. Because also, like, you know, and I've got friends who are sexologists, like this is where we recondition what even sex is. Sex is not penis and vagina. It's actually like that's part of sex, but it isn't sex, right? So then I'm like, oh, well, I have to rewire my teenage brain when it comes to what sex is. Because I'm like, oh, did we just have sex or did he just go down on me? Yes, we did. Can I put that in my little diary of how many times we're having sex each month? Like, you know, can I record that? And so it's like that process too. And at the end of the day, honestly, it doesn't fucking matter as long as you're feeling good.
Totally.
Right? Like you could have no sex for a year if you wanted to, and if you're feeling fucking awesome and like the best team ever and like smooching every now and then, like whatever, like we, again, like you said, we make everything mean something.
And I love that where you said the intimacy, because I feel like Jacob and I are the same, that like, and that's actually what's most important to me. It's just funny, the little part of me that, you know, that the tick off the thing, that, you know, good girl, how much sex are we having? How much this? But really what is, when I sit down and go, what are my values, or what truly fills me in my relationship? It's when I'm in the kitchen and my husband comes up behind me and hugs me. It's nothing. Jacob and I talk about like the channel between the hearts, like, you know, keeping things clear, not like piling resentments there. That's important to me. Like not carrying shit, especially now as a parent. Like that's more important to me than sex. Like how clear is the channel between our hearts? How much are we like speaking to what's alive in our relationship and tending to that?
Yeah. And like it'll evolve as children get older, right? Like all of a sudden you'll have a 5-year-old and they'll be going off to their school or their little bush school, and you'll be like, oh, we've got like 5 hours. We can re-engage our 2-hour sex marathon now. Like, you know, like again, stretching out that timeline of maybe over a 10-year period, you have a great sex life. But if we're looking at it from a 1-year period, the first year of parenthood, maybe. And there'll be moments, be moments that you're like, we're fucking doing it. Like we're nailing this, babe. Like, look at us go. Let's record like 10 podcasts this week because we're doing such a good job. And then you go a month and you're like, whoa, what are we doing? You know, it's just, and I mean, it's just the self-judgment aspect, isn't it? Like, why are we so harsh?
And I feel like the piece from this podcast so far is that like the stretching the timeline. And you spoke about like holding the tension earlier. You spoke about holding the tension of creativity and like realizing, okay, you know, I have this idea or I have this creativity moving through me, but right now I can't take action on it. And I kind of can see that in relationship as well. It's like, oh, I have this desire, I yearn to be connected, or I want our bodies to touch, or I want this, but right now, you know, it's not possible right now in this moment, or right now this week, or right now this month. We can't have much of that. And just being able to, and I'd love to hear your piece around this, around creativity as well, but being able to, I guess, become comfortable with that tension, like holding that tension, relaxing into that tension, not kind of like gripping into it and feeling like, oh my God, I got to do that, like relaxing into it so we can be present with what is.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I can really share from what has worked well for us. And again, this is such like a dynamic thing for people as well, because it does require firstly that deconditioning work as to what we think it all should look like. And then once that's done, it's like, okay, the pressure can release a bit. But like Tal and I, let's say, for example, we're going and visiting family. Our family live interstate, so we usually go for like a month. We stay at his mum's place. Do I feel completely platonic at his mum's place? I do. Do I, like I don't really want to have sex in the sewing room. It's not really my vibe. So like we don't often have a lot of sex when we go and see family.
Yeah.
Right. But we kind of just make peace with that. It doesn't mean anything about our relationship. It just means that our priorities are focused elsewhere for that month. And we get home and it's like, great, finally, we've missed each other, right? But it's just like we have the conversation. He knows that I'm probably not going to be super turned on at his mum's place, and he's okay with that. And we both just direct our energy to creating core memories as a family, connecting with our extended family, working, going to the gym or going to the beach, and like doing the things that have us feeling well. And of course, if naturally there's a moment there that it feels really easy to connect, we absolutely will milk it where we can. But it's like whenever there's that real tension, it's not to avoid the tension. It's not, hey, go get distracted and avoid the tension and not talk about the tension and not acknowledge it, because then it just becomes festering. It becomes something that keeps popping up later. But when you can acknowledge it and be like, the tension's here, it's uncomfortable, I want to connect, but it's just really not the right environment to right now. And we can both voice that. And we both say, okay, cool. Where should we intentionally divert our attention now so that we're still like channeling energy somewhere? Because it's like when you want to channel energy towards each other sexually, right? Or creatively, and you can't, then it's like you're creating a block of the channel and it's building up, and now there's pressure. Whereas if you can redirect that channel and you put that love energy, you put that connection energy towards your children, towards whatever, it's like you'll notice that the big pressure starts to dissipate, and then you can revisit it without any pressure later, because you're not like building it up in your head around this thing that you haven't done in like 3 weeks, and now all of a sudden you have to do it, but now like you've got to try and get mentally prepared and emotionally prepared, and now it feels like a really big thing that you have to overcome. It's just like the energy's been flowing, and now you just like reroute the little river and it flows over here. And like as long as there's a channel, and this is why I think that, you know, mothers in business and like creative mothers, it's like we want our energy to go towards our business, but it can't always. So it's like getting really good at holding that tension, diverting the energy, getting comfortable with the tension, and redirecting our energy without the shame, without the guilt, without the judgment, without the, oh, it should be here, but now it's over here, right? Just like embracing the presence of that. When we get really good at that, then we can go, oh, okay, business needs me, I'm here. Children need me, I'm here. Partner needs me, I'm here. Can't be there, okay, I'll be here. And we just get really good at that dance. That's actually the process. And the quicker that we can do that with more ease and less self-judgment, and just do the thing because we're just present and this is where I'm needed. Cool. Done. Like it's not actually a big deal. Like why do we get all caught up in the stories about it? I'm just needed here, so I'll just be here. And of course, like, you know, running a business, for example, you've got things that are scheduled and you've got that. And so then that the practicalities do have a place at the table. I'm just not sure if they're like the first thing on the table.
What do you mean by that?
So like the first thing most people would do is, okay, I'm going to schedule all my work. I'm going to schedule all my business this week. I'm going to make sure all the logistics are cared for so that I can relax, which there's an element of that. Absolutely. I personally go, okay, am I feeling like my emotional well-being cup is full so that I can be present in the moment, so that my nervous system is regulated? Because if I can be present, then I can be wherever I need to be with ease. And if I need to be in work, I can be in work. And when I can be at home, I can be at home. But if my head's like, this is the structure that we've planned, and now my children need me, huge tension. Right? How the heck do you surrender to that quickly? All of a sudden they're sick. All of a sudden that, you know, like I was like mid-launch in my first week, and my kid gets balanitis and his penis is blown up. And I'm in the emergency room. Like, how do we get here? Interesting. Like, how does that, I don't know. Anyway, so that happened. But like, my ability to just pivot. Okay, I was in the first week of my launch, energy going, like inspired, etc., and pivot. Okay, I'm off for 2 days, 3 days. And that was easy because my emotional well-being was willing to be present. Whereas if I was like in a stress kind of like, I'm in a launch, I need to hustle, I need to get it out, like I'm disregarding my emotional needs because of a launch, and that hustle energy, which I'm sure we'll go into later, I'm not an advocate for hustle, then like it's very hard to disconnect from that back into family when you need to be. So that's kind of what I mean by like, I think the structure is absolutely important, but it doesn't come before our ability to be present. And so that's why we need to create lives and set up lives that allow for those pivots when they need to happen, because otherwise it's really fucking hard.
Yes. Even like, you know, I've had quite a easeful journey into motherhood so far, but the moments that have been hard have been the moments where I have thought something would look different, and it's not. So it's like, oh, I had planned like baby should be sleeping right now because I wanted to get 2 hours of work done, and now baby's not sleeping, so I'm feeling the tension. I'm feeling that, no, this isn't how it should be, or baby should be, usually it's around sleep, like, you know, it's 9 o'clock, or I wanted to spend, you know, Jacob and I have kind of scheduled in an intimacy practice every Thursday night, and like last week it's at 8 o'clock, but she wasn't asleep, and then our intimacy practice was falling asleep and touching each other's hands, because but before that I could feel the tension of like, oh no, like this isn't how it should look. So oh my gosh, I think that's the biggest practice in my journey so far as a mother, and I think just in life as well, just learning how to, like you said, pivot. And I think that's probably the absolute superpower of of a mother, being able to pivot, or the practice of being able to pivot and be present with what is. And I love what you said, like around just being present with, or being able to be present wherever you are, like whatever you're doing, whether it's motherhood, whether it's business, whether it's with Tal in your relationship, like, yeah, that's what's most fucking important.
Yeah. And like years later, like even last night, we were meant to be in ceremony together, and then Ren just doesn't want to go to sleep last night. He's just waking up every half hour wanting boob, and I'm just like super touched out, like kind of high on Lotus, and I'm just like, but come on, like, okay, goodbye sex life tonight, but also like we've got tomorrow night, we've got the next night, whatever, like we'll move it. And so, you know, again, it's that pressure of like, it needs to be tonight because this is what we had scheduled in. But then it's like, oh, but when we attune to the family, it's not the highest needs of all the family actually for that tonight. So then where can the quickest pivot be? Can we now just be present and just watch a movie and, you know, journal for half an hour instead of make love for an hour and a half, whatever, like, yeah.
I think even just like drawing a parallel to business too, and how like, because like the feeling I get then is like grippy. Like it's like, we should be doing our intimacy practice. Why is this happening? And it's almost like the same in a launch. It's like, this is the launch, that this should be doing better. There should be 20 people inside already. And I just love what you said before. It's like, can we stretch it out? Like maybe this isn't a launch. Like I remember the early stages of my business. I was always just like, this is the one. This is the launch that's going to make me 100K. This is the thing. And I would just pile like all this pressure on the one thing. And what I've really learnt now as a business owner and a creative is like, let's just flow with it. Let's not like just like, oh my God, hold so tightly onto this one thing. I'm gonna be creating for decades and decades. Exactly. Let's just be with what is. Let's just bring it for this like amount of time that I'm launching or whatever, and just really. And I think that's just such a relief to bring this, because I think there is this kind of energy in the online world where it is like, hit the 10K, hit the 100, like whatever it is. So there's so much pressure we're just trying to put so much pressure on one thing, and that doesn't feel good.
Totally. And I like, exactly, if you're going to be creating for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, what's the rush?
Yes.
And like, I don't know, maybe you resonate with this, maybe you don't, but like, I love money. I'm like, fuck yeah, would love 100K to come into a launch. Of course, like I'm not going to say no to that, but I will say no to it if it drains me, has me burnt out, and has me not be the mother I want to be. Then I'm not actually interested, because what's the whole point? The reason why you want the financial abundance is so that you can be with your kids and be present. It's not so that you can like tick off a box. And so if the process of going to that 100K takes me away from my children in ways that I'm not actually aligned with, then I don't want the 100K. Or I don't want it that quickly. I'm happy to like, maybe that 100K stretches out over months rather than weeks or years, or, you know, whatever. Like, so, you know, even launching as a mother, I launch very differently to how I used to launch. I used to launch in this really like, okay, I need to open doors for a week. I need there to be urgency. I need people to like, you know, be able to come into my space like quickly and make the decision quickly. And I've got this surge of energy. So I just want it to be kind of almost fast, like, oh, only open doors for a week or 2 weeks. When I became a mum, I learned very quickly that quick launches fuck me over, fuck my family over, and fuck other people over. I'm working with mums. They don't want to have to make a decision like right then and there. They've got kids to feed and dinner's on the table, and they need to be able to sit with it that night and sit down with a cup of tea and think about it and like chat to their partner about it, because their family actually has responsibilities. It's a disservice to absolutely everyone involved to do a quick launch. And then I'm on my phone all the time, and every single day matters. Every day matters with a quick launch. And so when I started stretching out launches to a month, and I was like, okay, I'll go kind of hard that first week. I'll chill out, pull back a little bit the second week, the third week, focus more on the emails, that sort of thing. And then, you know, go hard again that last week where it's like really closing things up, and my energetics go from like very general, more and more specific as the launch goes on. I feel more and more attuned to the client, etc. It gives people time to think about it, time to plan about it. It gives people time to like see enough to make decisions, and then like come in like in the always the last few days. And it also means every single launch so far, I've had a child that's become sick in the launch, and every single time I've had at least a week where we've been in like sleep deprivation, then recovery. Imagine if that week was my only launch week. Like how disheveled our family would be at the end of that. it's not worth any amount of money at the end of the day. If like, you know, I'm having to just focus on repairing in the relationship, repairing in my motherhood, like, oh, my kids even now, usually, especially when we look at the energetics of sickness, it's usually because they're like experiencing some sort of separation, especially in those first few years. So if I'm like being in launch prep a lot more than normal, my child feels a bit more like there's separation from mum. Her energy and attention's elsewhere, and I'm going to get sick because I want the attention back, which is so fair enough. And then my attention goes back to them. So it's like, imagine if we didn't give ourselves the time as mothers. Like, the only way to have a launch that feels nourishing as a mother for ourselves and our family is to give it space and time to breathe. And so it's like that concept, but then on our life and on our creativity and on our relationship.
I love that so much. And I'm feeling that already as a mother. Like, you know, before in my maiden years, I could work 7 days a week if I wanted to. I didn't usually, but if I was in a launch, no one needed me. Like, I could,
Totally.
right? I could work 12 hours a day. I could just do it whenever. And now I'm like, what's turning me on and what I'm getting off on is like, how much impact can I make and how much money can I make with like working a day and a half a week or like 2 days a week?
Absolutely.
And that feels so exciting to me. And like you said earlier, how much like I'm so much more intentional with my time and my energy. And what I used to do in like 5 days, I do in like a day and a half now. And,
Totally.
And I really feel you in that pressure of like those quick launches, that every day does matter. And so as a mother, even I'm thinking if I was to do that now, I would feel tension every day. If I was with my child, I would feel tension. I should be posting. I need to get that post out. I need to do that thing because this matters and people need to see this. And I've only got 3 days left or 5 days left or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, how can we, and I love that this is just like the depth of your work, like designing our entire business and the entire way we create around our family and around our mothering. And we're allowed to do that. Like we don't have to just like look at how other people are launching and go, that must be the only way to do it. So I've got to fit, you know, my family and myself into this little box. Like we get to, you're just such a beautiful example of that. Like I love how just like can feel like how ruthlessly devoted you are to that.
Like there's no other option though. Like there isn't. Like if I want to be the mom I want to be, which like we have a very attached based parenting style. Like I co-sleep with the kids. Like they've the first 2 years Rafi was never in care. And when he was in care, it was with my brother for like 2 hours and I was in the house. And then like it's only since he turned 3 that he does like a 5-hour day at like a bush kindy, right? Like I'm so attached to my children and I love that. I feel like it's necessary in this age that they're in. And so like, you know, once they're over the age of 7, maybe life will look different. But right now in the first 7 years, like, okay, our priority is actually emotional well-being realistically more than money. But you need money to be able to have the time to be present with your children. Because if you're financially stressed, guess who cops it? So like your children, your family, you're like, that's where that goes. So like there is that balance, or not even balance, it's harmony really. There is this dance, right, that needs to still take place, because we could say, oh, well, my only focus is emotional well-being. So let's like not work and jump on Centrelink and we'll just be present all day as a family. But then like the bills show up or your car needs new tires and you're stressed out of your freaking brain, right? So they're like, that's not it either. But then it's also not it to like work 7 days a week and be like, sick, I've got like $1 million. And it's like, well, but your kid needs you. Like, where's daddy? You know, or where's mum even? Like, whatever. Like, so there is, for every single family, there will be a sweet spot, but it's going to be different for all of us, which is why there is no strategy that's going to work for you. You can't go and watch 10 freaking million courses on how to make viral Instagram reels, because a viral Instagram reel does not pay your bills. It's like literally does not. Like people are so hell-bent on becoming viral. I'm like, can you please like reestablish your values here? Because like the amount of reels I've had go viral and they do not money. Totally. It's just like such a weird place to have our energy. It's like, okay, what can I do in the amount of time I have that's going to produce the best results, which is very much like it's still this like efficiency mindset in a sense. But I feel like that's where we do balance our like inner worlds and come into that place of like, okay, intuition and strategy, inspiration, guidance, and let's kind of still be smart about this. because like my inspiration might say, okay, let's just go and paint a picture, and it takes me a month, and then like I sell it for $700. Or I use my creativity to curate a course and create content that I'm lit up about, and it generates $100,000. And then it's like, oh, cool, right? So like, it's not to say I'm not being creative, but like, where do we channel that energy? And then that's where a bit of strategy comes in. It's like, okay, can we actually be clever about this? Because everyone has an idea of how they could do their service, how they could do their work in the world. Most people are still looking at it from a employee situation where they're like, okay, I'll put a time in, I'll get paid time back. So like I put in 2 hours, and, you know, if I was to like guess, you know, $50 an hour, maybe I get paid $100 back. Great. So if I want to make more money, I have to work more time. And even if you're self-employed, we're still employing ourselves, right? It's not really this like business. It's not entrepreneurial in our way of going about things. And the difference between someone in self-employedness, is that the word, and business or entrepreneurship is creative thinking. How do we get creative in our solutions? How do we create leverage so that we can actually be in our value system? And our work can nourish our value system. It doesn't have to be in spite of or to sacrifice our value system. And this is a shift, because usually when we're in our maiden energy, pre-parenthood, we're more willing to sacrifice because we can just catch up later. I'm more like, I don't need to eat breakfast because I'll just like have a bigger lunch or whatever. When you're a mom, it's like, I need protein first thing in the morning because I'm breastfeeding, and then I've got to show up, and I have to have the emotional capacity to hold what's going on today. In fact, I need to eat every 2 hours, and that actually has to be a priority. I can't just get into hyperfocus for 7 hours anymore. And like I still try. I'm like, Tal, can you please have the kids? So I really just need to get into my hyperfocus. But, you know, and like, for me, I work well at nighttime. Like I get a second hit of energy, and like I could be up till midnight happily. But then I kind of pay for it the next day. So, you know, like there's always this. So when it comes to work, it's like, how do we create leverage so we can do the minimum amount of work, but be fulfilled by that work, energized by that work, nourished by that work. So it gives us energy to show back up in our family. And, you know, we went through a phase where we wanted to outsource everything. So we were like, okay, we'll get a cleaner. Let's get heaps of meal prep done because that'll make our life better. I don't want to cook. I don't want to clean. I just want to like hang out with kids. Oh, but you know what? Maybe we should consider getting a nanny for a couple of hours a day so that we can work, right? Because I love my work and it gives me energy and focus and all the things. And then let's get a VA and let's get this and let's get someone to do this. And then I was like, why am I feeling so disconnected from my life? Right? Like there's this idea that we want to make the money so that we can create all this ease and pay for all this support. But then I was like craving to do my own dishes. I was like, let me get back into my life. I just actually want to be laying with my baby while they sleep and having the amount of presence to just stare at their face, not thinking about maybe I should post on Instagram while they're asleep. Or like I wanted to clean my own home again. I was like, oh, that's interesting how quickly we can feel disconnected from our lives. And that's like beyond the point. So it's like, again, there's that fine line between like creating support and finding support so that we can be in our purpose and our vision. Purpose, I say that lightly.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to just be our freaking selves in the moment and, you know, watch our essence do its own magic. But, you know, that I didn't want my kids to see me outsourcing my whole life either. Like, oh no, my mum doesn't cook. No, I don't see her clean. She's just kind of in her room journaling all the time. Like, you know, she's just on the computer doing some calls. That's what my mum does. Like, I wanted to be the mum that like makes the freaking sausage rolls with my kids and plays in the sandpit with them. But also like, yeah, we can go and clean together. You can help me come and like tidy the bathroom or tidy, you know, like, so it's not to say I wouldn't outsource cleaning. I absolutely would, but like not to rely on. So my thing was I'll just make more money so I can pay for more support. That's the solution. And I don't know if that's necessarily, and there's seasons where that's absolutely necessary for sure. Absolutely.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's necessarily the answer either.
I feel you. And I went even before children. A few years ago when I started making good money, I was just I wanted to outsource everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And then it was like, oh, where am I distracting myself from actually, like living, like, you know, being in my home, being in like the mundane moments. And I think that's even more so when you have children, because there's many more mundane moments just being with your child and not thinking, okay, money is a way to escape that or avoid that or just outsource our way fully out of that. And yeah, I feel like we're even in that stage now of being like, okay, I feel like we need support, but we're tuning into what does that support look like? Does that look like a nanny a few hours? Does that look like cleaning? Like what part of our life do we really want support in? And what part of our life are we really committed to just showing fully the fuck up in? And I feel like you said, I feel like there's going to be an ever-present thing in as we add more children and as we, you know, our businesses grow and all of these things. Just, I feel like that's such a, seasonal piece too.
Totally. And yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Like, it changes as needs change, you know, like my son was looked after for 2 hours a day, 2 days a week. And then it was like, that wasn't working anymore. And then I was like, oh, like, I actually don't want to do all the back end stuff of my business. It bores me so much. And like, it's tedious and it's taking up hours of my time when I actually just want to be like the face of my business, because that's where I thrive. So why am I paying for nannying or house cleaning when I could actually just pay for all the back end stuff to be sorted? So then I can just like be in my life, you know? And it's like that, like, so the cliche question of like, if you were to make $1 million a year and didn't have to work, what would you be doing? And it's like, okay, how do we pivot our lives towards that in all the micro moments? And so like, I knew like we would just be as a family. And my dream life is not to be mum at home and Tully be at work. Like, no, I don't want to be the sole emotional provider for my children all day, every day. And then my husband gets home and then I have to show up there too. Like, that is not my dream. So I just claimed and owned that wasn't my dream. And then I said, hey, Tull, you know what? I'm actually willing to take the pressure off you. I want to work. I want to be in this. I want to be creative. I want to be in this. So let's pivot. Can you pull back? Can you take some stuff off your plate? I'm going to pick some stuff up. Now you're like, he is just as much primary attachment with my kids as I am. I'm breastfeeding my 18-month-old and he wants dad more than me. Right? And I'm here for it because I'm like, that's actually, it's not about like splitting everything up all the time. It's about becoming a family and really like, how do we nourish the family unit rather than always the individuals and the kids, like splitting everything up all the time. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? How do we do work? How do we do this? It's like, okay, what does our family need? Like, when we put all of our energetics together and there's this like pulsing orb of family, what needs to feed that? And usually and like, I know this can feel like edgy for people because a lot of people are in circumstances that they need to be in order to like cover costs and whatnot. But it doesn't happen overnight either. You can't just go tomorrow, okay, we're just going to be a family now and quit everything. Of course. But this is like, why not aim for a family-centric life? And it might take 5 years. But then when your kids are 5 or your kids are 10, they've got mum and dad and you're able to work on projects together and they can like see you and your gifts and your passions and like, you know, like it just makes the most sense to me. I can't undo that part of my brain.
I completely agree. And I feel like you guys were the same. Like we've been setting our life up for this for the last like decade. Even just like Jacob and I have been together 10 years and so much of our time has been creating a life where we can live out our values when we brought children into the world. And I'm not saying people can't do that once they've brought a child into the world or children into the world. I feel like it would feel riskier then, or it would feel like more of a, oh, fuck, because there's so much pressure on, you know, I've got to provide for these little humans. But so, yeah, I'm just, living, and this is why I'm so inspired by your family. It's like living out your values, like your value being such a deep reflection, or your life being such a deep reflection of the values your family hold. Like that's fucking everything. That beats everything.
Totally. And that's like, it's the pursuit that I think most people are on, but sometimes it's like more of an unconscious thing, right? So it's just bringing it to the conscious and being like, okay, we're actually actively going to go after this rather than accidentally by default. And often like when we aren't clear on what our values are, then we kind of fall to our unconscious habits because we're not intentionally creating. And so this is something like my husband Tully says all the time. It's like, if we're not moving towards inspiring challenges, we unconsciously will bring in uninspiring challenges. Challenge is always going to be there. It's a challenge to live in alignment with your values. It's a challenge to be clear in communication about your values. It's a challenge to pivot when you need to pivot and change when you need to change. And it's a challenge to change your career. It's a challenge to learn how to use social media effectively. It's a challenge to like listen to business podcasts and put things into action. It's a challenge to be connected to yourself and regulate your nervous system every day. It's also challenging to be broke, to feel uninspired, to feel unfulfilled, to have time away from your children when you don't want to put your kids into school if you don't want to have to like sacrifice health and well-being when you don't want to because of care, or like, you know, there's all these other things. So it's the whole choose your hard situation, and then question how hard does it actually need to be, because someone maybe has told you it needs to look hard, but maybe it's easier or more simpler than we think.
Yes, I love that about the challenge. Like, yeah, life is going to challenge you either way. You can either lean the fuck in and choose it, or life can choose it for you. That just reminded me of something that I've been really contemplating as a mother. I used to hate the word sacrifice, but now as a mother, I'm really enjoying it, and it's really serving me. And I loved, a friend shared this with me years ago, that sacrifice, the like etymology of the word, means to make sacred. And isn't that beautiful?
So beautiful.
And
so you mean it's not a satanic ritual?
And I've just been really enjoying being like, yeah, like motherhood. And I would love to hear your perspective on this, but for me, I'm like really, really owning that motherhood is sacrificial. Like there's sacrifices, but it's because I'm making sacred my son. I'm making sacred my family. And it doesn't feel like I'm losing out. It feels like I'm gaining, because I'm offering, this, I'm making sacred my son and my family. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this around, and it kind of circles back to what we were talking about before, like as women feeling like we need, or as mothers, like doing it all. But I'd love to hear your perspective on that. Like, the sacrifices of motherhood, or just like I'll just leave it at that. I feel like you can take it where you want to take it.
Well, I love that, firstly, like the make sacred, and like that's really resonant for me too. And like that to me translates into like I sacrifice an aspect of my own needs, but those needs then get filled up with connection. So it's like it's actually not even like a sacrifice and then empty. The idea is you sacrifice and then you fill, but you can only be full in that presence. Because if you sacrifice and you're hung up on what you just sacrificed, but your baby's smiling at you and your baby says, I love you for the first time, and you're still hung up on the fact that you didn't end up going out for dinner with your friend, or you didn't you've spent every evening for the last 2 years at home, or like you're hung up on it. And then your baby is like, Mama, I love you. And you're not present to take that in, then you're choosing for the emptiness rather than what's actually coming to replace that gap. So the sacrifice is like something is removed to create space for something that's coming.
Yes, it's like sacrifice and receivership in one. And totally. I'd love that piece around like if you're attached to the maiden life, right? Even I wrote a post on this around like my body. I don't know about you, but I just wasn't. I've always been quite thin and like, and I just thought I would. It was so unconscious, but I thought I'd just have my baby and then my abs would come, but like my abs would be there. And then I was like, oh, like I have a really different body. And it was really confronting. We did like a maternity shoot and I was like basically in nothing. And then when the photos came back, I was like, oh, wow, like my body. And I could feel the part of me that was attached to the maiden body. And like was wanting to her to pull her like into this timeline and like wanting her to return. And it's so interesting how, I think it is that attachment to, any part of our maiden life that then, we're focused on the emptiness and then we're not able to receive this beautiful, rich new life that's here for us. And I think that was a huge piece that it was really beautiful for me to like anchor into in the like, in my motherhood journey so far. I'm like, this is so life-giving. I was expecting, I don't know, just the culture of like, it's going to take so much from me. And I was focused on that leading up, not in my pregnancy, but a few years before getting pregnant. I was like, I was scared. I was terrified of motherhood, the all-consuming nature of it, the couldn't escape it. Like I was I was terrified of that. It was very like, I'm happy with my selfish life. I'm happy with my maiden life.
Totally.
And I thought I would step into motherhood and feel that, like really feel, oh my God, this is taking so much from me. And I am sure there's going to be moments in the future where I feel that. But I was like delightfully surprised at how much motherhood filled me and was life-giving, and how much it's filled me and nourished me.
Absolutely. And it's like that joyful sacrifice, right? Like that's the way
Yes.
that I've heard it described, is like when we sacrifice with intention, then
Mm,
it can become joyful. But when we sacrifice because we feel forced into it, we feel like our power is taken away. And then when we feel like our power is taken away, we look to blame somebody, and then we blame our kids. And then we resent that. Not necessarily resenting them as a whole, but like we go, oh, why did I choose this path?
yeah.
And the maiden era, the gift of the maiden is innocence and selfishness. You are supposed to be selfish, because otherwise how the fuck are you supposed to figure out who you are so that you can then be the woman you need to be to mother, because you know yourself. Like it makes sense, right? But then when you become mother, like you get to pass the baton on, and you get to sit in like I find that when I was a maiden, I sat in between inner child and like sexually maturing myself, really.
Mm,
It was like this playful innocence of the inner child. And then there was this like, and I'm becoming a woman, and I get to like experience my body and pleasure, and what do I want and what don't I want, and what are my boundaries? And like, you start playing with yourself. And then when I became a mother, I noticed I really started connecting to the elder within myself. So instead of I do connect to my inner child, especially when I'm dropping into play with my children. I love to drop into play. I think it's like one of my superpowers. But I connect to the elder, and she like reaches back through time and space and guides me in motherhood. And that is something that I don't believe I had as much access to as a maiden. So it's like when we say, oh, we got to let the maiden go, it's not to say you don't still give her a seat at the table, but she's not head at the table.
mm,
The elder's head at the table, and motherhood is like you're in awe of who you're becoming, and you're on that path there. And like, I love that you spoke about the body, because this is like a really big thing for most mothers. Like most mothers, like, what the fuck with the body changes? But like I look at you and I'm like, you are so fucking sexy. Like in all of your beautiful motherness, like I'm
mm,
just like, I get obsessed with women because we are so fucking amazingly beautiful, like even visually, right? Like people are like, oh, but it's what's on the inside, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we get it. We've heard it all. And still, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we're like, am I comfortable? Like personally, I'm like, I've got one boob that's non-existent and one boob that's like a C cup. What the fuck is with that? Like doggy style is so awkward. Right? I've just got one boob hanging down and one that just doesn't do anything. Like, so like, don't do doggy style in the mirror, I tell myself. So like, we all have something. We can all assume everyone's confident. We all have something. And like finding the erotic in motherhood for, yes, ourselves, but for others. Like when you can witness it in other women, when you go like, oh, I find her so beautiful, and she's rocking around and she's whatever, like 3 sizes bigger than what she was. Like I can't actually look at like maiden women the same way anymore, because I'm like, oh, there's something coming for you and it's going to change your fucking life, and it's so good, right? But like I only feel that way because I've felt it in myself and I see it in other mothers, and I've witnessed enough mothers reconnect to their erotic nature in motherhood, and like their big milky freaking boobs and their arms and their waist and their hips and their butts like dimpling out, and I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Like it's so good. It's just like, it's so good in so many ways. And the only reason we judge ourselves is because as teenagers we were brought up in essentially porn culture in literally the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, like skinny, that all that marketing stuff. And it just fucked our brains. That's it. So when we can start to deconstruct our brains, all of a sudden we realize that we're like actually in our hottest fuck era, and being a parent is our hottest self, and it's only getting better. We're only getting hotter.
yes.
And like, there is no part of me that now looks at my maiden self and goes, oh, I wish I like still looked a bit like that. I'm like, no. Like I'm so here for it. Give me the uneven boobs. Give me my like cute little wrinkly belly here and there. Like whatever. I'm just like, I feel so much sexier now than I ever did. And
I fucking love that so much. I want to like complete our conversation coming into what you were just talking about, like eroticism in motherhood and like the erotic mother. And even like, yeah, because even like birthing my son and feeling the surface level part of me that was like, ah, God, my body looks different and I want the maiden back. But then simultaneously feeling like, you know, oh my gosh, I've stepped through this threshold and like almost I'd already descended into my pussy and descended into my body, but there was a descent that, you know, from birth and yeah, there's something, it was like it unleashed a deeper, more primal eroticism in my body. So I'd love to hear just you speak about what's your relationship to your own eroticism look like in motherhood? What does that feel like? How does that influence your motherhood? Like being a woman that's connected to your pleasure, connected to like the primal aspects of you. How does that make you a better mother? I'd love to hear your riff on that.
Totally. So what's coming to me first is that like there's a lot more erotica in fantasy now, right? Like before it could be acted on straight away. Now it has to often like live up in the head for a bit longer. So like how do I use that to fuel my day? Right? Because like there isn't the space to just go and act on it straight away and then, you know, have the orgasm and then lay in your freaking bliss state for 45 minutes in bed and like go have like a shower and like redo your tallow balm and like all the fucking things, right? Like I'm literally like kids are asleep in a nap, Tully's at work, and I'm like, why am I so horny? And then you just have to kind of exist in your brain a little bit, or like, you know, self-pleasure, definitely an option, but depending on the kids, how well they sleep, all the things, right? There's like so many layers to it. So, or even just the ability to be like, can I prioritize self-pleasure over doing the dishes and, you know, home things right now? Because as a mother, the pressure goes, I should be doing all of this. Can you relax into the messy home? Can you relax into the chaos? Like that aspect. So there's a lot more of that fantasy. So being able to like use sexual energy to charge my body up to then put into creative pursuits or to put into like being present and playful with the kids. It's not to say I'm like freaking raging in my sexual energy around my kids all the time, but it's like, you know, like you channel it differently. Or it's like, let's go and paint together. Let's go make something. Let's go like run around in the yard and play. And so like I kind of connect to it in that way a lot. I connect with Tully in the eroticism a lot through ceremony. I feel like that's just something that we connected in a lot pre-kids. So when we bring ceremony in, whether it be meditation, breathwork, lotus, cacao, like whatever, I don't see it as this like hyper new age spiritual thing for us anymore. It's just like part of our connection process. And that is delicious. Like when I feel like we're both in our bodies and we're both present, like I find that so attractive. And even like when Tully became a father, like he just got a trillion times hotter for me. I was just like, oh my God, yes. Like I just found like the part of a man that gives himself to his children, like that is so beautiful to me. And like I didn't like the part of a man pre-fatherhood that was so hell-bent on trying to change the world that they couldn't be fucking present. Like I didn't like that. Like I liked them being on purpose and like, you know, feeling like their energy was direct, but like I don't know, Tully previously was just really like he's a really sort of person who likes to be in service. But when that service shifted to his family and to his children, I was like, oh my God, yes, have all of me. Like I'm done. And so I had to really use that as a reflection of like, oh, that's what he sees in me too. Like he sees my freaking devotion, and devotion is sexy. And so it's not about whether I have dimples on my butt anymore or whether I feel sexy or whether like my milk's like, I like it when my milk comes out. I like period sex. I like all these like, you know, messy, chaotic parts. I like finding the beauty in it because I think that's what's sexy is like being in the rawness of life and being embodied in the rawness of life and being turned on by it. Like that's my process now. So before it was like, can we light the candles and the oil and the massage table and like, let's make it all this perfect, beautiful, like, you know, let's have sex for 4 hours and it'd be tantric and like, you know, tick all those boxes. And now it's like, can we embrace the messiness of our lives and just like take each other in this? And that is like, yes, 10 out of 10 for me. Also, of course, I love a clean home and like, lighting a candle and having some music on. No worries, but you take what you can get.
That came up for me at the beginning of our conversation around like mess when we're talking about motherhood and like holding the tension of things. And I think that's almost just like a part of the crux of this conversation is just like being present with the mess, not trying to bypass the mess, not trying to like clean up the mess. It's like, yeah. And this is life in general, but I think especially as mothers, it's can we stop trying to get the perfect balance and the perfection of life in our relationship, in our mothering, in our business, and just be with the rawness of life. And I think that's so, I think that's like, that's motherhood. That's birth. That's like primal and raw and dirty and messy. And that's beautiful. And if we're trying, I think I'm so blessed to have, and I'm even more passionate about the work I do now for women that haven't yet stepped into motherhood, because I'm like, get fucking comfortable with the depths of yourself and your primal nature. That's going to help you birth. That's going to help you, it's going to help you in pregnancy, birth, your mothering, your relationship, all of life, like that descent into the body, that welcoming the gritty, messy, primal parts of us.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's hard. Otherwise, if you're like a high achiever perfectionist, you're going to have a shit time in motherhood unless you can get okay with that. And it doesn't need to be all the time. Like for example, if I'm really disheveled and I'm feeling touched out and tired and kind of gross and my hair's not been washed in like 2 weeks or something, and it's been in the mum bun, like that doesn't equal I'm feeling turned on.
Yes.
Right. But if I'm making sure that like I'm having the supplements, I'm feeling good, I've had the shower, I've shown up for myself so that I'm feeling just good for the day. I get dressed, I'm not in my pajamas all day. Like, the basic like bit of energetic hygiene, like that then sets me up to be available for what the rest of the day looks like, even if that's chaotic. Because I'm like, okay, I'm feeling here and I'm grounded and I'm, and Tala and I will do like a half-hour swap every morning just to be able to center the mind and like have some thoughts that are happening that are our own, just to start the day. I feel like that's been like a really beautiful game changer for us, because we weren't always doing that. It was like, no, we need to have a slow family morning. But like just doing a swap of half an hour to just journal, to have intention for the day, like has shifted how we relate to each other and the family as well.
I love that so much. And I've loved this conversation. This has been so great. I feel like I want a million more conversations about motherhood with you.
So many.
Before we close up, is there anything you would like to add to the conversation, or anything, or also just let people know where to find you and what you've got going on right now?
Totally. I saw your eyes dart up. I'm like, he's here for the baby. I know that look well. And I am referring to Baba. Or maybe not.
Standing at the door waiting.
Oh, it's so great. So thank you for today as well. Like, I so love conversation and flowing, and it's so nice to speak to someone else who's like in it as well, because it's like, we just pick up different angles, and so good. So thank you. So people can find me mostly social media at this point. It's the Cat with a K River, with the full stop in between each one. I have the Mother Makers on Instagram as well, which is where I support mothers in creativity and business and motherhood, Mother Mystic Maker. I have a Substack called Cat River, and that's where I publish more long form content. And that's kind of it. But, we've got lots of pivots and evolutions coming over here. And I'm excited to see what takes shape and form over the coming years.
I love that. If you could close up with offering just like one piece of wisdom, one piece of something to like creative mothers out there, what would it be?
That you can absolutely have a life that feels nourishing and a life that feels juicy and alive, and you can feel connected to yourself, and you can make money and feel like you're in such a beautiful dance with your creativity, but it's going to look different. And we are actually making the rules. There are no fucking rules. And we are literally paving this way as mothers. Like, this is the first time in like history that women are mothering and creating simultaneously, making money, reforming family dynamics. Like, this is the first time we've had access to the internet age. It's 2025. Like, there's so much potential in the online space, offline, etc. We're reclaiming our gifts as healers, as intuitives, as creatives, and we're prioritizing these things in our lives. We're, raising our children with emotional intelligence. Like, we are at like a freaking golden age. And of course, our dreams are not linear, and everything that has been is not what will be. So everything we've thought has been our story. Like, wipe your slate clean. Anything is possible moving forward, but it's going to look different to how you've been told. And there is no one size fits all. And we have to go on this personal journey home to ourselves so that we can understand our own way through this life. And of course, there are guides and mentors and people that can be parts of that process. But at the end of the day, it's just going to require us to show up for ourselves and figure it out. And there's no timeline. There's no rush. We're doing this for life. That's the beauty of being like a woman who self-inquires. But it's absolutely all possible. There's no reason why not. There's literally no reason why not.
Perfect. I've loved the timeline piece today. That's been really supportive for me. Just like, breaking out of that, like, everything has to happen in one 24-hour period. To just, like, ending it out. And all
balance exists in the week. Not in the month, not in the year, not in the decade.
Yeah, I really loved that. So thank you. And thank you for your time. This is so beautiful.